Welcome back, everyone! Hope you're all doing amazingly. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Squares and Circles. I'm your host, Ellie, and today we're going to be talking a bit about big life changes. Scary! It's inevitable that we're going to all need to go through some sort of big life change at some point or another, and these changes induce so many emotions, which can be overwhelming and exhausting, to be honest. Depending on the nature of the change, they can bring about anxiety, excitement, stress, sadness, grief, anticipation, and also relief. Change, even if it's a positive one, is always scary for most of us because it's a fear of the unknown, and according to bestdaypsych.com, because this change is not something that our brains process as familiar, it views it as an evolutionary threat, even if it is a good change. Our primitive brains don't know whether the change is good or bad, and uncertainty tends to have a bias to negativity, which explains why we tend to get so uncomfortable when these changes happen. Big life changes, for me at least, involve a lot of thinking, but what if? And 9 times out of 10, these what ifs are negative. And sometimes they're completely irrational, like for example, when I left the city I went to uni in, I would wonder whether my friends would forget about me or realise how much they hated me once I left. Which, of course, they haven't, at least yet anyway. But it's been like 5 months already, so I think it's safe to say that that was a silly, irrational thought. Most of these 9 negative what ifs out of 10 were also probably pretty irrational or unlikely. But why are these changes so stress-inducing and hard and emotionally erratic? According to marblewellness.com, there are several factors that make big life changes so hard. So let's talk about them. The first reason they mention is because change, especially when involuntary, such as the loss of a loved one or suddenly losing your job, can indicate a loss of control, which is innately anxiety-inducing. And the reason that this loss of control causes anxiety is explained in a study done by Steimer. He found that a loss of control triggers physiological responses through the HPA axis, which is a crucial system involved in stress regulation. And this activation of the HPA axis can lead to increased cortisol levels, which is a hormone linked to stress and anxiety. So basically, perceived loss of control can contribute to anxiety by dysregulating the hormonal pathway. Another factor that contributes to the negativity surrounding big life changes is uncertainty. Humans do not do well with uncertainty, and we really don't like knowing what the future holds. Neuroscientist Joseph E. Ledoux, I think that's how you say his name, found that this is because uncertainty activates regions of the brain associated with emotional processing and threat detection, and it disrupts the brain's predictive abilities, leading to increased stress and anxiety. Because we can't prepare for future outcomes, so our brains get really stressy, and it makes us hypervigilant and extra alert. And the third reason that Marble Wellness gave as to why big life changes are so hard is because they're often accompanied by a grieving period or a feelings of loss. This one is much simpler to explain than the last two because grief in any capacity simply sucks, and so does loss. Even if you're going through a positive change, you can still feel a sense of loss. For example, maybe you're leaving a job, but you actually quite like the job and you'll miss the people you work with. Or maybe, like me, you're moving somewhere new and you'll miss your life in the place that you're moving from. And this obviously heavily applies to losing a loved one as well, but I don't really feel qualified to talk about that because I'm actually lucky enough to have not lost anyone close enough to me that it's affected my life so far. So I don't really want to speak too much on that. But if you are looking for that, then there are so many good grief resources, and I'll link some in the bio of this podcast for you. And the fourth and final reason that marblewellness.com gives is the fear of the unknown. And this is pretty similar to the second point of uncertainty, because the fear of the unknown is basically uncertainty. And again, we fear it because our brains can't plan for potential possible outcomes, so we get really stressed and we just have to take it as it comes and deal with it as it happens, which for most people is very, very, very stressful. Going through big life changes can also cause something called adjustment disorder, which in children is the classic, like, acting out, being a little brat. But in adults, it manifests in sadness, overworrying, and sleep issues. And this disorder can start anywhere from 3 months after the changes occurred and can last for up to 6 months, which is pretty long. So if you feel like you've been in this period for a long time, then you're probably just still in this adjustment disorder period, and that's fine. My boyfriend and I have fairly recently gone through a pretty big life change together, and we have dealt with it pretty differently, I think, even though it's the exact same change. So I thought it'd be useful to get him on here so we can talk about our different experiences. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Do you want to tell them what our big life change was?
So essentially around 6 months ago, maybe 5, we moved from living in Brighton to living with your mum in a pub in a very quiet area. So it's quite a dramatic change in terms of like scenery and also like styles and habits of living, I guess.
Yeah, so it was quite an extreme change. We basically went from one extreme to the other of like a really hectic and busy lifestyle to a very quiet and slow one. So do you want to tell them about your experience of the move first?
So my experience of the big life change. Am I right, guys?
Big life
Only
change,
said it like
big life
7
change, big
times.
life change.
Lol. Yeah. Basically moved and it was weird, and now I'm here.
Brilliant.
Sorry.
You're a man of many words. I love that.
So initially it was quite, I don't know, for me I found it very weird in the sense that like in previously living in Brighton I felt like I was used to being really quite active, like always out doing parkour, always like had like new things to work on and different things to do. And then we moved here and it sort of drastically dipped in a sense that there's not a lot going on here. There's not a lot like that I enjoy. There's no real parkour scene here, and the closest one is like an hour and a half away. So if I wanted to do that, I'd have to make a real active effort. And then also like all the things that I did kind of revolved around that in a sense. So I sort of lost those things, which was quite daunting. And initially I found that quite difficult to tackle at first. But then I would just sort of make my best effort to distract myself and really like push to go places and do things and sort of spend all my time out and like not let myself get used to the environment that we're in now.
Yeah, you definitely spent a lot of time not here and you definitely distracted yourself as much as you could. You were basically never here, which left me a lot of time to think about what I was missing, which was Brighton. And I was really mourning it at first. And I spent a lot of time I felt really down and I don't know, I was just had really bad FOMO and I missed all my friends and I missed my old life because it was nothing like what I was having here.
Yeah, well, in a sense, like obviously through parkour, I have like a greater threshold. Like I can go to a lot of different places, and there's a lot of different people that I can always like meet up with. Like I can just find people to hang out with, so I can create my own like new hub almost. Whereas for you, like you don't necessarily have that in such a distinct way, so it's harder for you, and you have to like in those spaces, you've got to create something new, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't really have like anything like any of my hobbies involve like a community. So I kind of had to build that for myself whilst living here and it did take me a really long time. I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. I'd say it took me till like January after we'd been here for about I was like 2-3 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me that long to actually start doing things to help I don't know, to help me have like a life here, because otherwise it just felt like a big pause between us moving from Brighton to Bristol, which is where we want to end up. We're just here to save some money first. So I just kind of treated the first few months as like just a big pause in life and nothing, I wasn't doing anything to progress in any way, shape or form. And then in January-ish, probably, I started journaling and focusing on like my healing era and, you know, working on myself, started yoga, started doing my hobbies again, like all of my crochet and stuff. Well, I was doing it a bit before, but not really like properly. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you had like a period where you had a few projects like that you wanted to do, but it wasn't that you were like doing it in a dedicated fashion. It was like you just sort of had to do them because they were like presents for people.
Yeah, and also I was just doing them because I had nothing else to do. It wasn't because I was like passionate about it.
Yeah, and to speak on the pause thing, I felt like for you, you were like, oh, this is just like a pause period, like, and then we'll get to Bristol eventually. Whereas I was very much like, initially, I was like, I want to be in Bristol, so I don't want to be here. So that's why I'd go to Bristol all the time to do parkour and sort of like get myself involved in that as soon as possible, so that I felt like I was there, as opposed to like accepting that this is where I'm at and enjoying that time.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because I very much, I don't know, I didn't really accept the fact that we were here, but I was living in it, so I didn't really have much of a choice. I didn't accept it, but I was doing it anyway, you know? And then
Yeah.
when I eventually accepted it, I was like, okay, I can actually do something with my life here still and not just wait until we get to where we want to be. Because, I don't know, I also realised that this is where, obviously, we're meant to be right now. And, you know, everything happens for a reason or
Yeah.
whatever.
I guess it's also understanding that like where you want to be physically is different to where you want to be like in a capacity of what you want to do. So like for example with this, like you don't need to be anywhere specifically to do a podcast.
No,
So
yeah.
like you can work on those sort of things and improve those areas whilst also like getting yourself ready to move to the place you want to live as well.
Yeah. I also think that I wouldn't have ever started this podcast if we didn't stay here for this long. Because I wouldn't have done all of that healing and self-growth and self-improvement. I wouldn't have had the time to, because I would have been focused on other things like a social life and building that up in a new place.
Yeah, there's like a load of different stresses that occur when you're in like those. Like if we just move straight there, it'd be like, oh, we need more money, we need more this, we need to do this, we need to do that. Whereas with this time, like you were like, oh, I don't have much to do, so it's like, what can I find to do? Or like once you've like started to grow and learn, you're like, what can I find to do to like actually improve myself and enjoy myself and what's fulfilling? And then that led you to here, I guess.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think I would have done that if we went straight to Bristol.
No, I feel like you would have ended up spending way more time trying to like sort a job, like because obviously we've been trying to sort out jobs here and like figure out that aspect of life,
Yeah.
but because it's such a small place, there's so like little in that sense to get to. So like whereas in Bristol, like we'd need more money anyway straight away,
Yeah, because we'd be
and
paying rent and stuff and
yeah,
bills.
and also like it's easier to get a job because there's a lot more to do, but then you'd end up doing like a different job that you don't necessarily want, and so you wouldn't have time to focus on this sort of thing, as opposed to where with this, like because it's taken such a long time to get a job, you've then had so much more time to focus on what you'd like to do, like in more of like a fun and enjoyable sense.
Yeah, and not even just focus on what I want to do, like figuring out what I want to do. Like I didn't know I wanted to do this
Yeah,
until
no, that's
like a
true.
month ago.
Yeah, she never said she wanted to do a podcast ever.
No, I would know. I wanted to work in media. That's what I've got a degree in, but I didn't actually want to. I don't know. I didn't ever want to be a podcaster, but now I do, and now I am.
Oh hell yeah! Now I am. She's a podcaster, guys.
I'm a podcast queen.
Yeah.
How did you feel about moving before we actually moved?
It's interesting. Obviously, like before leaving Brighton, it was weird because like the initial idea to move to Bristol was exciting, and it was just a bit nerve wracking. Well, not nerve wracking. I was just a bit like stressed because it was like there was so many things I have in Brighton that I enjoyed, and obviously leaving those things is like, oh, what if I don't get to do those things anymore?
Yeah.
But obviously they're still going to be there for me, and then also I have other opportunities to do things in Bristol, and I was excited for that. But then when it was, oh, we need to go to Caen for a bit, and then we planned to do that, I was a bit like, oh, this could be fun. Like, what? I don't know. Fun's not the word I would have used.
No.
I was like, this is like a good idea because it means that we can save money quicker, and well, we thought.
Yeah.
And I'll be closer to Bristol, so I can get active in that sort of sense and be in the Bristol scene and like do what I've done basically. So initially it was like, oh yeah, this will be alright. I'll have a good time. Little did I know that eventually I'd find it quite frustrating and stressful in different ways.
Like what?
Well, I assumed because it was not quite a small town. I just assumed it'd be easier to find a job, and that like we would be sorted with that sort of thing a lot quicker. And so the whole process would feel a lot shorter than it is. Like whereas right now it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be probably like the best part of a year, if not longer, depending on how like things go. So I was just like, oh yeah, that's gonna be totally fine. But like it's got to this point now where I'm like, oh, how long are we gonna be here? I don't want to like, and it's not that I don't like enjoy being here. I don't enjoy the things we do here, but it's just not what I want to be, where I want to be.
Yeah.
So in my head, it's like, oh, I want to get there. I want to get to that point as fast as possible because I know that's what I want to do and I'll enjoy that the most.
Yeah, like we were expecting to be in Bristol by now.
Yeah,
like we said April at first. We were like, we'll only need to be there for a few months.
Yeah, well,
but we did actually also move with the promise of working in the pub, or I don't know if it was a promise, but well, yeah, it was.
We had we thought we were gonna be working at the pub, and unfortunately, there's not enough work at the pub, so we both have had to look for other jobs, and then there's no jobs in Caen
because there's no places in Caen because It's the tiniest little village in the world.
I can throw a stone the whole way.
I could probably literally run around it without stopping, and I can't run very far without stopping.
I can definitely do that.
Sorry, Art.
Yeah, you would. What about you? How did you feel like pre-moving?
I was really excited because I don't know, I felt really like stuck in Brighton. I'd been there for nearly 5 years. I'd done a whole degree. I moved when I was 19. So, and I don't know, I changed so much in that time. I don't really know who that girl is anymore. So I was definitely ready for a change because I felt like even though I had grown so much, I definitely plateaued in Brighton and it just felt like everything was very stagnant. So I felt like, I don't know, I just needed a new...
A change.
Yeah, a change. I needed a breath of fresh air. And it's not that I didn't love everything in Brighton, like I still did. Obviously, I had my whole life there. I had a job that I really liked, like finally, rare. And I had all of my friends and I just really liked the city and living by the sea. But I just really needed a change. So I was excited. But then as it got closer to our moving day, I was very much like, oh my God, like what? What are we doing? Like, why don't we just stay here? It's amazing. Like, I love it here.
That's just typical though, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, get cold feet.
Like, oh shit.
But we had nowhere to live, so we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was very mixed emotions, I think. And then on the actual moving day, I don't think I actually felt anything. I think I was just suppressing it.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Just sort of being like acting like it's fine when obviously like you're a bit stressed or like you're upset and stuff.
Yeah, like I remember your mum was driving us here with all of our stuff. And I was just like, I don't know, we went to McDonald's and I was like, why don't I feel anything? I'm not like sad, I'm not stressed, I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not excited. There's nothing really going on right now. I'm just in McDonald's eating my McPlant.
That's so interesting. I don't know. It's not I felt nothing. I just like, it was one of those things where I was like, well, this is what we're doing. So we're doing it. I wasn't like upset about it. I was just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. The last emotion before that was saying bye to Darcy.
Yeah.
That was incredibly emotional.
Emotional.
I miss you, Darcy. Yeah, so we definitely had very different experiences, even though we were going through the same thing. And this brings us to part 2, where we'll talk about the ways of overcoming these scary big life changes.
Scary. Rawr.
So what did you... Oh, Chris, that stinks.
That's not my fault.
That's so stinky.
Fart.
Sorry, Chris did a big fart and it stinks.
I didn't. You fired.
I literally... Did I?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. How'd you not know?
You're gaslighting me.
I'm not gaslighting you. You questioned it. You obviously know that you did.
No. Anyway, how did you deal with the move? Like, how did you process it? What did you do? What? Yeah, you get it.
Not totally sure. I feel like I'm still like getting over it, or not getting over it. That sounds really sad. I'm still like dealing with it in a lot of different ways. But like now that I've got a job, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like you didn't really deal with it at first.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. I just like did my own. I don't know. In my head, it's like I was just like doing my thing. Like it's like if I can just keep doing my thing, then I'm doing my thing, and it's sick. Do you know what I mean? And doing my thing is just going out training and like trying to film stuff and have fun and like enjoy myself. But obviously that. Sorry, I'm umming all the time.
You are.
I always do.
I'm not gonna cut these out, so sorry, guys.
That's fine. Well, I say that's fine. It's not my problem.
Carry on. Or not.
In terms of like processing it, in terms of processing it, I feel like I still got like a lot to do. Like I still don't actually like feel like I treat it like it is the norm. I still like treat it very much like it's a halfway. Like. All right, I'm just comparing things. Leave me alone.
You carry on. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I will carry on right now because I know exactly what I'm going to say.
No, you don't. Here. That's why you're stalling.
I'm not stalling. But yeah, in terms of processing, like it's a lot. Like it's still a lot. But now that I have a job, it feels a lot easier. Yeah. Because it's now like there's like movement being made towards the end goal.
Yeah.
Previously, it was like I'd always get stressed and frustrated because like money situation would be jarring, and then I'd also still want to do what I want to do. like in terms of like parkour and like going out and like doing photography and stuff, I need to make effort to go to places and to do things and meet up with people, and like that requires like spending time and money. And if I don't have those things, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
So it just makes it more stressful. But then I'm still trying to do that because that's what I want to do. It's how I want to move forward.
Yeah.
But so it felt like a losing battle. Like I'm just like trying to do that, but then slowly can't do it as much as I want to do.
Yeah, because the more that you try to do that, the less money you would have.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah. Whereas so like, and then that would not help me process the situation, because I'd just be trying to ignore it and focusing on like how I can keep doing these things.
Yeah.
Whereas now that I have a job, I'll just spend more time focused on making money, and that'll mean that I'll probably spend more time here. But it will be in a good sense of the fact that I'll be like investing time into getting more money, so that then we can move, and then I can invest all that time into the things I want to do. So it's like, and then also on top of that, I can use the money that I'm gaining to put more time into things while I'm here, and then enjoy them more and get more out of them, and then make my own self improvements, like going to like, I don't know, I can go meet up with people in London or something and then go training and like get more out of that, as opposed to like being like, oh yeah, I can go to Chippenham for the day where there's no spots on my own and just have a shit time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely felt really stagnant since us, like, we both didn't have jobs, so we weren't making any progression to save, which is why we're here in the first place before we moved to Bristol.
Yeah.
So that we're in a good financial position, but we're not doing anything for that, so we've just kind of been like floating around, hovering, living our lives, but not really being able to. Because we have no money.
Yeah, it's frustrating when the goal is to make money and then you're not making any money. Like, it's
yes.
It's like, what's the point?
I think frustrating is an understatement, to be honest. But yeah. Yeah, I think I processed it really a lot differently. I think I actually processed it, you know? Hey. Like, I not to brag.
Not to brag, but she processed it. I processed it just differently. You did a lot more inward thought. I did a lot more outward active things.
You did a lot of distracting.
Yeah. I like distracting myself.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not a bad thing.
No, it depends.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you've struggled a lot more since you haven't been able to go and distract yourself.
Yeah, well, as soon as I started not making any money and couldn't go do things, I was like, well, this is shit.
Yeah. Whereas I spent a lot of time, like, as I said, from January, processing it and learning how to make my life here my life, rather than like a big gap in existence, I guess. I don't know. And I think a really big part of that was I didn't stop myself from feeling the ways I felt. Like I was let myself be really sad about missing my friends and missing Brighton and missing everything that I used to have. And I would process it, and I would do a lot of journaling and inner work to work through that, rather than distracting myself. And as I said, it's not a bad thing, but you know, you just process stuff differently. And if distractions work for you, then like do that, obviously.
Yeah,
You've got to find what works for you. It's such a... Sorry,
I was just going to say, I don't like... For me, it doesn't feel like distractions. Do you know what I mean? It's like moving towards the next thing.
Yeah.
Like going and training in Bristol is what I'm going to be doing, or what I want to be doing, like what I want to be doing. So it's not a distraction. It's like, oh, like how can I start that up? Do you know what I mean? And obviously, like, it is, I think, like, it is a distraction from the idea that I should put some more time into this like space and like get used to this idea, but like it's also like an investment into like when we're in Bristol of like what I want to be doing, and like how I can like I now know more people and like more involved, and so when I'm there I'll stay involved and be more present with that as well.
Yeah, no, I do get that. That does make sense, but also you're also not really being present here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was.
So,
yeah,
like,
it's two sides.
Like it is like, even though you are working towards the future, like focusing on the future is a distraction from the present still.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course. Yeah,
and like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
As I said,
I think it's like not a bad thing, but it's also not the best thing either. Like you should spend time on both.
Yeah, of course, but like it depends on how you want to deal with it, and it also depends on your own individual situation, because like obviously this situation is very unique to us. I mean, not very unique. I'm sure loads of people have to do this, but still, like, this is very, like, I don't know. Like, it's our situation, you know, it's personal.
Yeah, of course. It's always like differing per person.
Yeah, so basically you just got to focus on things that will make you happy, if that's going to work for you. And if what's going to make you happy is going inwards and healing and learning about yourself and like discovering passions and rediscovering hobbies that you haven't done, or I don't know, getting 2 rabbits, that was really helpful.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to go back on the thing, I think it's quite interesting because obviously I already have like my passions, like I already knew what they were.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I knew what I wanted to be doing. Whereas like obviously you've had this like you had like things you thought you wanted to do, but now you really have a sense of like like what you want to be doing, like with this.
Yeah.
Like obviously you did filmmaking and stuff, and like you do like that and you enjoy that a lot, and you obviously like that is obviously something you might end up pursuing as well.
Yeah.
But like now it feels like you've got something that you're really passionate about in the same way that I'm passionate about parkour.
Yeah.
Like, so I've already found that, so I'm like trying to steer myself towards that, whereas you've spent the time like finding that, if that makes sense. And then that's how you've like learned to improve.
Yeah, that's so true, actually.
Like that contributes to it in a sense of like if I didn't know what I wanted to do, I'd also be like, you know what I mean, I probably would have sat here and been fucked.
Yeah.
Maybe worse. Like, do you know what I mean? I definitely would have been worse.
Maybe. I think something that really helped me as well was focusing on things that were certain at the time, because I don't know, there's a lot of uncertainty and change, obviously, like especially when we didn't know if we were going to get jobs, or when we would get jobs, obviously we will / have. And also just like, I don't know, the uncertainty of, I don't know, like my friends in Brighton. Obviously I know that's a certainty now, but at the time it wasn't, because I was in quite a negative headspace. But focusing on things that were certain, like our relationship, and when we got the rabbits, our rabbits, and I don't know, just like my self-care and stuff like that. Like things that weren't going to change because they were within my control, basically. Like focusing on that was really helpful because it helped to kind of alleviate the uncertainty that was stressing me out. And that's what stresses you out when you're going through a big life change.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you started to take more time to really involve yourself in like things like your health and like just general stuff like doing yoga and stuff. And it's allowed you to feel like you're in control of the, like, you know what I mean, this period of time you're in control and you can self-improve and feel better and enjoy yourself through that. And I guess in the same way for me it was like the transition of like deciding to train more in like Cairn and like Chippenham and stuff has allowed me to feel a lot more like safe in the terms of like, if I'm here I know I can enjoy myself. Like I don't have to go somewhere or like make or like I don't need money to go somewhere far away and be like, yeah, now I can go training. I can just go training here and still have a good time and set goals here. And then because of that, it's like allowed myself to enjoy this space a lot more.
Yeah, and then you don't feel like you're missing out because you've made it here for yourself instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel less missing out. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out on training and stuff because I go training here. And fortunately, I enjoy training on my own as much as training with other people, so I can make something out of that. Whereas some people can't. Lol.
Lucky you. Another thing that really helped me was taking solace in the idea that everything happens for a reason. And I know I already mentioned this at the beginning when I was saying how I wouldn't have this podcast if we hadn't stayed here for so long. But I really, really, truly believe that. And even though it felt really rubbish at the time, it was really comforting to know that I was where I was meant to be and everything was happening at its own pace. I need to be patient and the things that are meant for me will come for me eventually. But yeah, I don't know. It was just really comforting.
Yeah, well, I feel it's fortunate in the sense that all this time has allowed you to find these things. Yeah. And like without this time, I don't think you would have.
No, definitely not.
I also think for me, like, there's a lot of like different aspects of what I want to do that I hadn't like spent time really putting like effort into because I was trying to do so many other things, or like with the photography stuff, there's so much stuff that I now feel like I want to do, and I have more of like an aspect of how I want to do it. It's just a case of like putting more, like now I have more free time to put into that, and I have like creating the website and all those different things. Like I knew I wanted to do them, I just didn't like do them because I didn't put time into it. Yeah. Whereas now that I have more time, I do that more, and then I also put more of an emphasis on that. And like, it's interesting, like how I used to put like the way I treat training now, like the way I treat training, like, have always treated training. That's how my brain feels like about photography now. And I feel like if we weren't here and I didn't have that time to put into that and think about that all the time, I wouldn't feel like that. I'd probably just focus on the training loads and hope that the photography does what it does.
Yeah.
Whereas now I have a bigger grasp on like how I want it to form and what I want it to be and how I want it to move forward.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have got that if we weren't here for so long. You
Yeah.
would have just continued doing what you were doing.
Yeah, I would have continued doing what I'm doing and not really like taking in the different aspects of how I want to do things.
Yeah, but yeah, now you've got like a nice solid brand, I think, and you like know what direction you want to go in.
Yeah, I hope so.
And you're doing really well. Very proud of
Yay.
you. Good sir.
Yay, titty punch.
Ow. And also, I wanted to say, back to what I was saying about an adjustment disorder earlier. Well, I wasn't really saying that much, I was just saying that it exists. But if you are suffering with that, then I think the best thing to do is to be really gentle with yourself and let yourself feel the emotions that you're feeling. And I don't know, you just got to write it out, basically. And that sounds like terrible advice, but you've just got to let it move through you and not let it consume you too much.
Yeah, well, I think there's a balance to things. Like, you can't always just have drastic change, like just do things and fix everything. That's not a thing.
No,
like,
yeah, of
like,
course.
we moved here, but we can't change that. So
No.
it's like we have the adjustment disorder of like moving here and having to deal with the new situations and everything. And it's not like we can just change that overnight. You have to like allow yourself to feel the emotions you feel because that's how you feel about being here.
Yeah, and that's
Do you know what
also
I mean?
how you process the emotions so that you can move through them and grow and learn and feel better eventually.
Yeah, you can't grow without processing and taking in how you feel. You need to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't get to that point anyway.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we're just about ready for part 3, where we tell you the important things and lessons that have helped us with our big life changes that will help you too, hopefully. So the first one is that big life changes are naturally scary from an evolutionary standpoint, so don't try and suppress the fear. Allow yourself to be scared and find things to focus on to turn this fear into excitement, even if it's just focusing on things that are yet to happen.
Yeah, if you spend like all your time sort of stressing about things that you can't control, you're going to end up frazzled.
Frazzled indeed.
So you need to spend your time sort of like find things that you can focus on to like improve or enjoy, and that will create a less stressful environment for yourself.
Yeah, even if it's getting a pet. And if you've got the time and the money and the energy to research and properly look after a pet, then I really, really cannot recommend it enough, because it's really helped me through these times.
I'd just like to clarify that we didn't just get a pet. Like,
No.
she put effort in. Like, we put effort into finding, like, deciding what we wanted, and then also like the care and stuff. Like, Ellie spends so much time just like looking up the best things for rabbits and then worrying about whether she's doing them properly. Like, she puts a lot of care and effort into it. It's not just like, oh, she got a pet and it makes her feel better.
Oh no, yeah, you have to like obviously take care of them properly. Otherwise, what's the point? You're being a horrible pet parent. So don't do that if you're not going to treat your pets properly. I'm not just telling you to get a pet because it will fix everything. It's not going to fix everything, but it will significantly help, in my opinion. You love our girls.
Yeah, I do.
I love our girls.
Except when they eat my fucking charger.
Oh yeah, they eat everything.
My freaking charger. Number 2 is focus on the constants and things that will move you forward. Try not to get stuck in the idea that life sucks.
Yeah.
Right, Ellie? Am I right, Ellie?
Am I right? Are you right, Chris?
Yeah, I am right. You don't want to get stuck in the idea that life sucks.
No, yeah, of course not. You don't want to...
The more time you spend putting energy into negative things, the more negative energy you're going to get.
Yeah, you know, it's a very famous quote.
Quail.
Famous quote for a reason. What goes round comes around. So if you're putting out negativity, guess what you're going to get back? Negativity. But if you're putting out positivity, good things will happen. And your life will seem much better because you're vibing in the positive realm.
Yeah, so focus on the things you can do. How can you make yourself feel better each day? What can you do that's improving? What can you do to have fun? All that jazz.
Like hanging out with the rabbits. The third thing, Chris, Number 3 is to learn and understand how you feel. And not just what your brain tells you, but how you feel in your body, because your emotions also are reflected in your body. So, and your brain often tells you that that things are way worse than they actually are. So if you focus on your emotions in your body, then you can be more in tune with how you actually feel about certain situations. And it'll be way easier to process them if you accept and understand them.
Yeah, the first step to like moving forward and doing things and progressing is to understand where you're at the time.
Yeah.
And understanding like how you feel about the situation, and then you can start to improve it.
Yeah, and also accepting that.
For sure. And the last one, number 4, is take each day as it comes and try and focus on being present. Try not to stress yourself out with the past or the future, because worrying will get you nowhere. Right, Ellie?
So true. And that's why I never worry, ever.
That's just, why are you lying to the audience?
No, of course it's natural to worry. Of course we all worry sometimes, but...
Not me.
Oh, Chris.
I'm never worried.
All right.
I'm worried right now. Do I sound cool on this podcast? I sure hope so. Oh. Do I sound really autistic? I wonder if they'll know. My special interest is parkour, guys.
Did you not hear him mention it? I didn't either. But no, don't worry. That's my advice.
Not don't worry.
No, I was joking.
Yeah, I know you were joking. But obviously, like, you're going to worry about things. That's just a natural part of life.
Yeah,
but the
of
more
course.
time you can spend, like, in the present, thinking about what's going on and what you can do at that time, you're going to inevitably enjoy yourself way more and just be able to process and have fun in those moments.
Yeah, because you can't change the past, and your future is determined by what you're doing now. So if you're worrying now, you're probably going to be worried in the future too.
Do something cool now, and then you won't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Pretty much.
Hell yeah!
And that is the end of the episode. I hope you learned something valuable, and I would love to hear about your guys' big life changes and how you dealt with them. Thanks, Chris, for being on this episode. I really appreciate you talking about our shared experiences.
No wuzzards, G. Fuck, I messed up. Replay it.
No, you sound cool, don't worry.
Oh, sick. Cool. Thanks, guys. Comment below if you think I sound cool. On Spotify, you can't comment, but, you know.
You can.
Oh, sick. Cool. Like, comment, subscribe.
Thanks, Chris. Follow me on Instagram at Squares and Circles Pod and TikTok at Squares and Circles Podcast. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast. Oh, how many times can I say podcast? But rate it, because then it can be shared with many other people who might need to hear things like this as well. See you next week.
Play
Bye.
the outro. Boom, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3, eyes look like a P. P as in the vegetable. Now I see you're stable because you can balance really well. Yeah. Yeah. Balance really well. I'm doing swell. Now that I've got over my big life change. I've got some change in